the Armchair Cricket Podcast News Roundup.
Hello all, welcome to another episode of Armchair Cricket Podcast, a podcast focusing on Test cricket by armchair critics of the game. In this episode, we will take a look at all the ongoing international cricket action as well as some of the important cricketing news from around the world. So let's straight away dive into the ongoing India tour of Australia. So we had previously looked at the first ODI, and since then we've had the ODI series completed as well as two T20Is that have taken place. So if you were to take a quick look at the games that were completed, so the second ODI was pretty much similar to the first one, being held in Sydney. Australia managed to put up a huge score, and having scored 389, they literally buried the Indian batting order under an avalanche of runs. So again, Steven Smith scored an identical 100 of just 62 balls, finishing with 104. There were solid top order contributions from David Warner, who made 83, Aaron Finch, who made 60, Marnus Labuschagne, who made 70, and Glenn Maxwell, who finished with an amazing 63 of just 29 balls with a lot of reverse hits. But in spite of chasing such a very large score, the Indian team tried to put up a brave effort. In fact, even had a chance of mounting a chase, but with no real top order heavy contributions. This meant India still totaled 338 for 9 at the end of their 50 overs. So Virat Kohli top scored with 89, and with this dismissal, it could be said that the game was more or less done. Dhawan had made 30, Mayank Agarwal 28, Shreyas Iyer 38, Rahul made 76, Hardik Pandya 28, and Ravindra Jadeja 24. But this meant Australia took the series 2-0. That didn't mean India wouldn't want to probably put one on the board, and that's exactly what happened in the next ODI. In the third ODI, which was held in Canberra, it was probably a different kind of a pitch. So it was said the pitch was sort of looking flat, but it had more, let's say, even support for both batters and bowlers. They put up 302 for 5 batting first. It looked like probably a subpar total, but then it came to be that this was more than an adequate total. So Dhawan had made 16, Shubman Gill, who took Mayank Agarwal's place, made 33, Kohli again made 63, Shreyas Iyer made 19, but then India were looking in a bit of trouble about 32nd over and Kohli was dismissed. 152 for 5 could have been 240 all out or something like this, but there was fantastic finishing from Hardik Pandya, who made 92 of 76, and then Ravindra Jadeja, who made 66 of 50 balls. So this meant chasing a very tough target. Aaron Finch, the skipper, again made 75, but then there were not a lot of top order contributions. Marnus Labuschagne was promoted to open since David Warner was out injured with a hamstring injury. Moises Henriques made 22, Cameron Green made 21, the debutant. Alex Carey made 38, Glenn Maxwell 59, and Ashton Agar 28. But in spite of all these very good contributions, Australia were all out for 289 in the last over. This meant India had one of their own victory on this tour, and it was 2-1 to Australia for the ODI leg. Moving on, if you were to take a look at the T20I leg, here India have been very, very successful, and this basically means they are continuing their success also in the Australian tour. So in the first T20I, which was again held at Canberra, India batting first made 161 for 7, thanks to Rahul, who was opening, made 51, Samson made 23, and Ravindra Jadeja finished with a very strong 44. This did look like a middling target, but Indian bowlers came back really well with a lot of new faces in the bowling lineup. Deepak Chahar, Washington Sundar, Natarajan, and Yuzvendra Chahal was back in the 11. So all of these bowled really well. Of course, we should not skip the fact that Yuzvendra Chahal was a concussion substitute, the first of his kind for the Indian team, where Ravindra Jadeja got hit on the head while batting, and he was withdrawn, and Yuzvendra Chahal was his substitute. It was not well received, it must be said, by the Australian contingent, but as far as the rules were concerned, I think the substitution was fine. And Yuzvendra Chahal had a very, very big impact. He took 3 for 25, and along with Natarajan, who took 3 for 30, it meant that Australia were restricted. There were some good scores from Darcy Short, who made 34, Aaron Finch, who made 35 right at the top of the order, Moises Henriques made 30, but all of these were still not enough. Glenn Maxwell and Steven Smith had a fallow score. That's very rare. that both of them failed in the same game. But that meant India took off with a 1-0 lead in the T20I series. In the second T20I, which was then again shifted to Sydney, this was again a high scoring affair. Clearly the Sydney ground is a very high scoring ground as far as both these teams are concerned. And again, Australia faced a few setbacks. We know that Warner was out injured. It looks like Aaron Finch was also rested due to an injury. We already know Pat Cummins' load is being managed, so he's not playing. So that meant Matthew Wade were recalled as a keeper as well as the skipper of this side, and he did good. So batting first, Australia totaled 194 for 5. So Matthew Wade made a 58 of just 32 balls opening the innings. Steven Smith made 46 of 38, Glenn Maxwell 22, Henriques 26, and Stoinis finished off strong with 16. But this was a very, very challenging score, 194 for 5. But the Indian batsmen came out all guns blazing themselves. Rahul made 30, Dhawan 52, Kohli 40. So with these three laying a very, very solid foundation, Sanju Samson helped along with 15. But then in the end, again, it was Hardik Pandya who made a wonderful 42 of just 22 balls with 2 sixes and 3 fours. And Shreyas Iyer, who made 12 of just 5 balls. They took India home in the last over with 2 balls to spare. So this means India have won the 3 T20I match series 2-0. The last T20I will be played tomorrow. That will be the 8th of December. And following that, we'll see that the Indian team will take a few practice games before getting ready for the tests. Now, moving on, if you were to take a quick look at the West Indies ongoing tour of New Zealand. So we had, again, only witnessed the first T20I in the last episode, but in the second T20I, New Zealand batting first really buried West Indies again with a lot of runs. So they batted first and made 238 for 3 in their allotted 20 overs. This game was held in Mount Maunganui, and Guptill made 34. Conway has really shown he belongs at the top level by scoring an unbeaten 65 of just 37 balls. But the real star of the show was Glenn Phillips, who made 108 of just 46 balls. 100 of 46 balls, and then went on to make 108 in 51 balls. So with such a huge target staring them down, West Indies nonetheless did not buckle. Brandon King was out for a duck, but Shimron Hetmeyer made 25, Carl Mayers made 20, and then Kieran Pollard 28. But towards the end there was some heavy hitting by Kibo Powell and Fabian Allen. But none of this really would have helped West Indies win, and they totaled 166 for 9. So again, New Zealand take the 3 T20I match series 2-0 because the third T20I, also scheduled to be held in Mount Maunganui, was washed out after just 2.1 overs. So interestingly, for the first time, Mitchell Santner was leading the New Zealand side. Unfortunately, in his very first game, it was washed out. So, but knowing the way he has represented New Zealand, probably he'll get more opportunities going ahead in the future. Now, we shift to the test match scene where the first test between West Indies and New Zealand began and also very rapidly came to a conclusion, with New Zealand coming out as comfortable victors. So in this case, New Zealand batting first piled up a huge 519 for 7 thanks to their skipper Kane Williamson's 251. Tom Latham, who opened, made a patient 86 and laid the foundation with Williamson, and then Ross Taylor, who scored 38, and in the end Jamieson, the fast bowler, who made 51, all supported Kane Williamson well. But as can be clearly seen, Kane Williamson almost made 50% of the runs and was the main linchpin as far as the scoring was concerned. There were a lot of extras, and West Indians, I think, when they looked at the green pitch of Hamilton, got very, very excited, and I think they spread the ball around a little bit. Probably not a lot of discipline to go around, except only Holder and Alzari Joseph showing the little bit of, let's say, control that was required. But that meant, West Indies had to put up a big score. But that was not to be. Even though the opening pair batted out the remainder of the second day, they really batted out 25 plus overs to just, take the score to 49. Beginning of the third day, it was very disastrous for West Indies because they lost wickets at regular intervals, no real big scores, just a couple of 20s here and there, and they were all out for 138. So since they did not have to bowl a whole number of overs, the New Zealand skipper Williamson immediately enforced follow-on, and most of his bowlers were really fresh, it looks like, because in spite of taking 4 wickets in the first innings, Saudi came back hungry, took another in the second, and Bolt took 1 as well, and Neil Wagner took 4 in the second to add to his 2 in the first. And let's say Jamieson, the fast bowler, the really tall, strong fast bowler, is coming along apace as far as New Zealand bowling stocks are concerned. He's been taking the place ahead of somebody like Lockie Ferguson, So he's doing really well, it must be said. And he took 2 wickets in the first innings and again finished with 2 in the second. But in the second innings, West Indies, again, it looked like it would be a similar tale because they had slipped to 89 for 6 with Jason Holder also being dismissed and no real score from West Indians. But Jermaine Blackwood was batting at 6, decided, right, that he'll take the game by the scruff of its neck, and then he was well supported by Alzarri Joseph. So Jermaine Blackwood made 104 of just 141 balls, and Alzarri Joseph made 86 of 125. So they had a 150 plus run partnership, and otherwise you could imagine probably West Indies would have lost the game by an innings and 300 runs. But in this case, they saved the blushes of their team, this pair, and in spite of that, West Indies lost by an innings and 134 runs. So this means, going into the second test, New Zealand look comfortable and probably, they're well slated to also beat West Indies in the second test. It remains to be seen if West Indies can mount some sort of a challenge, because as far as New Zealand are concerned, they would want to win all the test matches slated at home and give themselves a really good chance of qualifying for the finals of the World Test Championship to be held in England next year. Now, moving on to the other international tour currently in progress, well, at least a truncated one it looks like. England were touring South Africa, and in the second T20I, they beat South Africa comfortably because they first bowled and kept South Africa to 146 for 6, and then they were able to chase it down very comfortably, scoring all the runs required in the last over. So David Malan had a very good series. He scored 55. He in fact top scored for the game by scoring this 55. And then, in the third T20I, South Africa again, batted first, but then they put up a really, really huge score. They put 191 for 3 on board, thanks to Bavuma who made 32, Faf du Plessis who made 52, and in the end, Henry van der Dusen who finished very well to score 74 of just 32 balls. They set a very, very stiff target for England, and for much of the game looked like they were in control and would win this game. Jason Roy was dismissed with 16, but Josh Butler, who made 67, and then David Malan, who unluckily finished on 99 not out, took England home comfortably. So at least there looked to be some sort of a run rate pressure, but towards the last 4 to 5 overs, the wicketing pair of both Butler and Malan opened up, and that was the game as far as South Africa was concerned. They would be a bit disappointed that they could not take a single game in this series and were blanked 3-0. And as it transpired, that was to be the last game on the tour, because with a couple of England players testing positive and some hotel staff that were also testing positive, this hotel was where both teams had stayed, and unfortunately all of this has led to the tour being cancelled. At least it's been called off for now. We know that the ODIs would be very important because they are a part of the World Cup cycle. So it remains to be seen whether the remaining ODIs will be slated again maybe sometime next year, and it will be probably even held in a neutral venue. These are all options. But unfortunately for now, the South African Cricket Board would be ruining this sudden turn of events because it's not been a good year for them so far. But they would have hoped that they finished the year with a bang with England's tour, and then of course with Sri Lanka, Australia, and also Pakistan to follow. It looks like it might be a bit tough because considering that how this tour has gone on and suddenly this tour has been called off midway. This is the first of such a tours to be called off, unfortunately due to COVID. But we know that there may be more such in the coming times. And Cricket South Africa would be a bit wary considering what has happened, that the other touring countries would not pull away or pull off from this touring itinerary that's been already shared. It remains to be seen, and we'll keep you updated in the upcoming episodes as well. Now, if you were to take a quick look at the other COVID-related news. So Pakistan players who had some positive tests on their touring squad finally have cleared all the tests. All the players have cleared it, and they are allowed to resume training as far as the tour of New Zealand is concerned. Not a lot of time remaining. There's just 11 days before the first international game on the 18th. But at least they have 11 days where they can put their heads down and go all out to train and get used to the conditions. It looks like at least the coach Misbah-ul-Haq is not very happy with what has transpired, and also Wasim Khan, the chief executive of PCB, has made his displeasure very clear. But in spite of all this, I think the best of the situation can be made, and Pakistan can really finish strong in this tour. In other COVID-related news, Mujeeb Rahman, who arrived in Australia to take part in the BBL after his wedding in Afghanistan, has unfortunately tested COVID positive and has been told to self-isolate. So it remains to be seen whether he'll be fit in time for the beginning of the BBL, but we really wish that he recovers as soon as possible and can do his best in the BBL. Now, if you were to take a quick look at the women's BBL finals that was held in Sydney, it had one team that was sort of experienced and the other was playing for the first time. So Melbourne Stars, playing for the first time, buckled under the pressure and they were only able to tally 86 for 9. This is mainly due to wonderful spell of fast bowling from Shabnam Ismail, the South African fast bowler, as well as Sammy Joe Johnson, the Australian medium pacer. So these two really tied the Melbourne Stars batting lineup in knots, and they could not really get out of it. And 86 for 9 in a final is not the ideal score. And Sydney Thunder women chased this down very comfortably, and they are crowned the Women's BBL champions for the second time. So our congratulations to the Sydney Thunder women team. Now, if you were to take a look at some of the other news from around the cricketing world, we have a bunch of BCCI related news. So first of all, the Indian domestic season has been announced, and it will probably only consist of the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, the Ranji Trophy and the Vijay Hazare trophies. So it's mostly slated to take place between December 20th and March 18th. And most of the state associations have opted that Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy be included in this, let's say, the limited amount of time available. Ranji Trophy will last the longest. And there have been six venues with biobubbles or biosecure bubbles chosen to hold all the games. And the rest of it is about to be announced. And we will keep you posted on how the itinerary comes out and where these six venues are and so on and so forth. Now, in the other BCCI related news, it's been announced that for all IPL fans, there may be some exciting news coming up. So the BCCI AGM that's supposed to take place on December 24th is considering approving 2 new teams for inclusion into the IPL. So it remains to be seen that out of these 23, let's say, items to be discussed, whether this is also one of the big ones. And also, there is the fate of Saurav Ganguly and Jai Shah, and whether the BCCI AGM chooses to back them and let them continue their posts, or probably go by Supreme Court's edict and ask them to step down. So there are a bunch of very important, let's say, decisions that BCCI will have to take in this upcoming AGM, and let's see how it goes. In another news, Corey Anderson, the Burley New Zealand all-rounder, has confirmed that he has retired from international cricket for New Zealand, and he has signed with MLC, Major League Cricket T20 in the USA. He's decided to join this, and considering that he was not really able to crack the New Zealand 11s in the last year or so, I think this might be, it must hurt a little to give up a chance to play international cricket. He's represented New Zealand in 93 international games. He's of course still the holder of the fastest ODI century in men's cricket, and of course he's also represented himself in IPL and other T20 leagues around the game. It looks like the main, let's say, motive for him to do this is that his fiancée Mary Margaret, who's from America, would probably appreciate it very much if he was to go and live there along with her. So we wish Anderson all the best in his upcoming ventures, and I'm sure his big hitting days in the international cricket will be missed. In the last of such news, it looks like Channel 7 and Cricket Australia are still at loggerheads, and Channel 7 has finally decided to take this to the next level, and they have decided to take Cricket Australia to the courts. So it looks like Channel 7 are not happy with the discount that has been offered to them due to the varied and slightly truncated cricket itinerary that Australia would have in this summer. One thing that has come to our notice is that some of the discussions that were held behind closed doors have been revealed by Channel 7 as a part of their, let's say, litigation in the courts. So it remains to be seen how this not so nice spectacle will be resolved in the upcoming days and weeks. We'll keep you posted in the upcoming episodes as well. Those were all the cricketing news that we would like to discuss in this episode. Thanks once again for tuning in, and we really hope to have your company in the upcoming episodes as well. If you have something that you would like to share with us, don't hesitate to get in touch with us on Twitter at Armchair Cricket Pod, where we are live on most games, or via mail armchair.cricket@gmail.com. Also, you could leave a comment on our Facebook channel, or you could leave a comment on any of the podcasting apps that you use to listen to us. Do leave a good rating for us if you think we deserve it, of course, on any of the podcasting apps you might use, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any of these, and it would really give us a good boost. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
the Armchair Cricket Podcast News Roundup.